So right about this time of year, there's a large portion of gaming YouTubers who have their lips firmly wrapped around their microphones. You see, January is that time of year when all those gaming YouTubers are sucking down those big listicles of top 10, top 5s telling you what you should play, along with all the regular bells and whistles like plugging their sponsors or begging Susan to not remove their ad revenue or change the terms of service any further. And you know, for all the vapid lists that people put out, you can't be too mad at them. Everyone's got bills to pay. But what if, and I'm just brainstorming here, what if there was someone out there who was just too socially retarded to understand the concept of bridge burning? Or at least at bare minimum got paid next to nothing by YouTube, so they don't really care if they burn those bridges. What if there was someone out there not telling you what you should play, but telling you what you should avoid? I mean, if only there was actually someone out there who was both brave and dumb enough to try and predict the future of MMOs that haven't even released for the year of 2023. Someone who laid out their reasoning with the unhealthy and prolonged experiences that they've had in the MMO space. Someone able to see a lot of the bad stuff coming a mile away. If only someone like that existed. Oh well, I guess we'll never know. So the 5 games I've put on this list are ones that you should probably be waiting for a full release of at bare minimum before spending your hard-earned cash on, if you have any self-respect left. Now bear with me here. I well and truly hope that I'm wrong about each and every single game on this list. This might be shocking to hear, but I actually want good MMOs for all of us to enjoy. But if I'm being honest with you, there's just some things out there that even manage to peel the rose-tinted glasses right off of my face. So let's start with the obvious. Ashfall, releasing in the second half of this year. This one's supposedly been inspired by Fallout, but instead of just being set in a post-apocalyptic world, it looks like it was developed by a team living in an actual nuclear wasteland. Which, to be honest, is a little bit surprising to me because as far as I can tell, Legendary Star Studio is not based out of the UK. But to give you a good idea of just how grifty their marketing is, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine a world in the not too distant future where the Earth has become a wasteland from resource depletion and endless warfare, where humanity advances to the point that we create an AI that eventually gets tired of generating porn for us, decides to go rogue and nuke the entire planet. You, a lone wanderer, emerge from one of the many nuke-proof underground vaults into a strange Eastern aesthetic land, also known as Hong Kong in a few years when China gets tired of their fight for independence. You'll have to battle your way through the wasteland, surviving unpredictable weather and wild, mutated creatures of all variety. All the while, you're stumbling through this wasteland trying to save humanity from its own toxins by finding a Gek. Sorry, wrong franchise. A core of creation. And now imagine that all of this is happening to the backdrop of the musical talents of Inon Zur, Steve Mazzaro, and Hans Zimmer. And now I want you to close your third brown eye and open the other 2 back up. And as you do so, I want you to look at this piece of shit that I've laid before you. Does this look like anything I've just described? No? Man, Legendary Star Studio, I've really got to congratulate you on this one. I didn't even know it was possible for me to feel these levels of disappointment anymore. So now that all your hopes and dreams have been shattered onto the floor in a million inconsolable pieces, what can we expect from Trashfall? Well, for those absolute connoisseurs out there who can't help but want to try this game out, shitty FPS combat, a sloppy amalgamation of mechanics and gameplay that looked like Destiny 2 on ketamine, all deliciously sprinkled down with potential copyright infringement. Just looking at some of these images that are actually in this game, I'm starting to question the words inspired by. So I'm predicting that this one's going to be a dumpster fire. From the gameplay, to the Eastern game dev levels of monetization, to the fact that it's releasing on mobile, to the realization that they're probably using a player hub system to scam their way into calling themselves an MMO. I'd love to say that I think that this game will be an outright failure. But if you think that, as an MMO player, that you are used to eating shit and calling it sugar every time something releases in this genre, you are still a complete amateur in comparison to your average mobile game player. But let's move on from a game that looks like an apocalypse to one that's being developed in an actual apocalypse. Corepunk. This one's been delayed already, so it might release this year, but no promises and no dates been given. This is because it turns out it's pretty difficult to develop an MMO when your country is an active war zone. Who knew? But Artificial Core, the team developing Corepunk, can't be that far off from release considering they're a relatively small team. We've already seen gameplay and they're holding a closed beta soon, hopefully. Corepunk is an MMO that looks and plays like a MOBA that's based in a seamless open world. That means top-down camera, no loading screens, fog of war, and combat like you were playing League of Legends or Dota 2 if you could turn the game speed down to about half of what it normally is. And that's where my big gripe with this one lies. Combat, even in their trailer, looks sluggish and uninteresting, and even taking a cursory glance at other top-down MMOs like Albion Online has got me questioning, why would you play this over Albion or even something MMO adjacent like Path of Exile? There's not that much to say here because the gameplay speaks for itself, though I'm hoping that they're hiding a few tricks up their sleeve that we just don't know about yet, like the crafting systems or the story or some unique progression mechanic that they might have. Now, Corepunk might get away with building a small and loyal community for a while, but likely not one big enough for Corepunk to not end up in the hell that is maintenance mode eventually. There's a few other complaints I have about this game, like the simplistic boss mechanics in fights and the character creator. My ultimate prediction for this game is that it's going to be fun for about a week or two and then just not much more than that. But it just doesn't feel that good dunking on this MMO when the developers have been forced out of their home country and are trying to just survive and still release their game. So let's move on. Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert? I'm just gonna call this one project I don't know if I'm an MMO or not, which is also why I'm telling you to be cautious with this one. Polar Bus, the company who made Black Desert Online, changed their minds and aren't making this into an MMO. We got this little announcement telling us it is an MMO, before someone else in the company clarified that it isn't an MMO. With all the confusion of people saying it is an MMO and not, you might get caught up in thinking that Clueless Desert might actually be one, when in fact it might not be one. For now, let's call this one an ARPG in an MMO skin. And that's where the warning lies with this one, because the gameplay itself actually looks decent. We've got fluid and pretty cool looking combat, wide open and gorgeous landscapes, heavy weather mechanics, a few frame rate problems, which means that this game will probably set my PC on fire if I try to even play it. Dungeons, bosses, skills, talents, and all that other MMO-like stuff. But it's not an MMO. Maybe. Also, there's multiplayer. This game straddles the line of what is and isn't an MMO, but it's likely that it's a single player experience with moments where you can team up with other players online, something like an MMO Lite. Think Elden Ring multiplayer, but a little bit more involved. My prediction for Crimson Desert is that it's not going to end up being an MMO, but on the off chance that I'm wrong and it is, then expect that just like BDO, emptying out your bank account is how you're going to be progressing through the game. Either way, this one's shaping up to be a good game that might be worth your time if you're into shared world ARPGs that just so happen to be similar to MMOs but not have the same levels of multiplayer that you would otherwise expect. This one is all over the place, but I can't just outright tell you to not buy this game. The only thing that might make you change your mind is whether you're looking for a full-blown MMO experience or just a game that's enjoyable to play. And let's hope that it is actually an enjoyable game, because what we've seen from the grappling system, the fighting, all of that, it does look awesome. But moving on from a game where the instructions are so unclear that you're likely to get your dick stuck in the ceiling fan, all the way over to something that's gonna make me look like a fucking clairvoyant. This next one, I think its failure is near inevitable. Into the Echo, slated to release this year. That is assuming no one cans this MMO first. This game proves that just because you make your game in Unreal Engine 5 doesn't mean it's going to be good. You might be thinking you haven't heard of this game, and there's probably a good reason why. Etlock Studios don't seem to have anyone in their game studio who's played QoP successfully, just looking at this walking animation cycle. Now, we know next to nothing about this game, and that's not a good sign for an MMO that's supposedly releasing this year. This to me looks like a small dev studio that's just bitten off way more than it can chew. They wanted this game to be a unique next-gen time travel MMORPG. You start off in a primitive world called Rava and move forward not just through space but also time. We're being promised complex systems, unspecified combat, a lore-heavy experience.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Puzzles to solve and crafting systems from what I can tell. Their trailer isn't great, they don't keep any of their info up to date. Etlock Studios has already lost a third-party vendor, and a lot of their talk comes off like I'm reading the blurb of a crypto metaverse project. I'll die on this hill right now and apologize later and take that L if I'm wrong, but I'm just gonna outright say it. From everything we've seen, do not buy this game. Do not waste your money. And if you are going to waste your money, do us all a favor and at least turn on your webcam and record the moment when your soul leaves your body, and then post it online so all of us have something to enjoy while we're waiting for something good to release. And finally, to round this list off, this is the big one, not because I think that it's going to result in a bad game, although it might, but rather because of the people behind it. Throne and Liberty, releasing somewhere in the first quarter of this year, both on consoles and PC. Now, the MMO formerly known as Project TL is a story-based game that's supposed to be a continuation of the Lineage series of MMOs. Now, based on their trailers, this game looks like it's gonna be a banger. Just look at those graphics, those mechanics, that gigantic amount of players all fighting together in the same world without layering. Please God, tell me there's not layering. But there's still a reason that this one should make the list, and I should be telling you to avoid this one, at least until full release and you know what you're getting into. This is the game with weather effects that alter combat conditions, open world dungeons, PvP, PvE, great looking graphics, and a whole mantling mechanic that looks pretty slick. But there's two simple reasons that this game right here is on this list. The first one is these guys, NCSoft. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, well then congratulations on remaining a pure and untainted soul like the rest of us. I'm trying to think of a shorthand way to describe this. I think, to put it bluntly, if MMOs were kindergartners, NCSoft would be Jeffrey Epps. These guys have no scruples when it comes to turning their players into payers, and they most definitely do not care at all about your opinions or morality on the matter. They've had a pretty big hand in ruining what could have been some fairly solid MMOs over the years. Wildstar, Blade and Soul, Lineage. So just be warned that the gameplay might be good, but brace your wallet for extraction if you're planning to get into this one. Now, the second reason that I'm concerned about this game is that the devs of TL are promising a seamless open world with, and I'm quoting here, an infinite amount of players capable of existing within this game. Now, just like when I first read that, I'm sure when I said that, it went in one ear and out the other. So let me say that again for you. An infinite amount of players in a borderless, seamless world with no instancing and no loading screens. Does that sound realistic to you? Now, don't get me wrong, technology has come a long way in the last few years, but I don't think it's come that far just yet. So, suffice to say, I'll believe it when I see it. Now, I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to be that crab that's dragging everyone else down into the MMO bucket. But once upon a time, there was another game that promised us all something eerily similar. Now, over time, Hello Games did manage to fix most of their mistakes. No Man's Sky is actually a pretty good game these days, but they had an advantage that the Throne and Liberty MMO doesn't have. They're not owned and operated by NCSoft. And to make my point a little bit clearer, it looks like they're already trying to pull a fast one on us. Really. A video with well over 2 million views has less than 1,000 likes and under 100 comments at time of recording. Now, this is pure conjecture on my part, but this smells a hell of a lot like view botting. And here's where my first reason starts to intermingle with my second reason to be cautious. These people are not the guys known for churning out big successes with constantly improving live service worlds, but the guys known for churning out successful and predatory monetization methods that suck the cash out of your wallet faster than Activision Blizzard can suck the hopes and dreams out of their employees. In the mind of NCSoft, you are not a customer, you are a resource to mine. So I would go into this one fully expecting to be locked out of mechanics, weapons, and maybe even zones that you need to pay real money in order to access. I hope I'm wrong about this one, because it's like some updated and improved version of Breast Development Online and Lineage in a lot of ways. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and tell you to at least wait for the full release and a few reviews before you... But buy the game. This game is going to be the best game, the best MMO ever. Just buy the game. Just buy the game and you'll be fine. It's gonna be great. Throne and Liberty will be the most amazing You know what? I can't do it. Just fucking shoot me. As always, a big thank to all my subscribers, both old and new. And a special thank to the bank account holders of Big MMO, who this time around get to see this video before anyone else. Anyway, more content soon. Bye.